Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm your host today. I'm also the creator and the moderator of TheChocolateLife.com. Before we jump into today's topic, which is about exploring IP, intellectual property issues related to cocoa and chocolate, I would like to remind all of you that this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, is supported by members of TheChocolateLife.com. If you're not a member, please go there, join the channel. And while you're here, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Pod Save Chocolate on YouTube. And then again, one more thing before I go in, let me know where in the world you are connecting from today. Not whether you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, but where in the world you're connecting from. The United States, outside the United States, that would be really, really helpful. And also you can go into the live chat on YouTube or the comments on LinkedIn and Facebook, and you can, that's where you can do the shout out, or you can also comment and ask questions about what it is that I'm talking about today, which is intellectual property issues in cocoa and chocolate. And this is the homepage of The Chocolate Life right now. One thing that's new is if you do want to support the work but don't want to be a recurring subscriber, there's now a donate button, so you can donate any amount that you'd like to support the work that we do. A one-time donation, not a recurring subscription, you can do there. And that for every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, I put together a post. And so if you're listening along rather than watching along, you can go back and review every single one of the links outside the Chocolate Life that I brought up over the course of the hour, of course of the episode. So you can do your own homework. I want you to become a skeptical consumer of information, and that skepticism should extend to me. So I try to put the primary sources and the links which are behind what it is that I talk about in every single episode. And today I want to start off with sort of exploring the landscape, and I'm going to do that by this is the homepage of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office report website, and it is a stripped down patent, trademark, and copyright search engine. And I want to start out here by saying, what are the differences between trademarks, patents, and copyrights? What do they protect? So a copyright, I'm going to start there. A copyright protects the expression of an idea. So I might have an idea for a love song, and I've got lyrics and associated music associated with that love song. I could register both the lyrics and the music with the Copyright Office and have protection for my expression of the idea of a love song. I can't protect the entire idea of love songs. Right? So that's what copyright covers. It comes from a French common law practice called the droit moral, the moral right, which became copyright in English, about the idea of protecting the expression of an idea. So my book, Discover Chocolate, has overlapping or complementary copyrights. The entire book, which is the layout and all of the contents, is copyrighted. And what that means is if somebody wants to duplicate in any respect that book, what they need to do is get permission from the copyright holder. In that particular case, it was the publisher of the book. Now, I, as the author, retained the copyright in the text separately from the copyright in the book. So the book was the expression of an idea, which included my text. I retained the copyright and other exploitation rights in the text. So for example, if I wanted to create an electronic version, which I laid out and used all my own imagery, then I could use my text in my own version of it. And then there are also copyrights in the images and the photographs that were used in the book. Right? So copyright in a particular expression might have overlapping domains. It could be images, it could be text, it could be a physical 3D, like a sculpture, it could be a performance or recording of a performance. There are many, many things that it can be, right? And importantly, when it comes to the digital domain, there are some things that can't be copyrighted. So for example, the order of um, commands in a program are not subject to copyright. So if you're old enough, in the 1980s, there was a whole series of lawsuits around, could the order of keystrokes and the menu structure of Lotus 123, Microsoft Excel, and Borland Quattro, I think was the name of the program. Like, could one directly copy the other? And the answer the courts decided was that that could not be copyrighted. The order of menu items could not be copyrighted. So why is that important if you're in the chocolate business? So number one is your entire website should be copyrighted, right? So that you can control who uses your content, right, with your permission. And if somebody misuses your content, you can say, I'm sorry, you need to stop using it. Now, if you want to be able to claim monetary damages, you need to register the copyright with the patent office, right? But what you may do is you may find as a website owner that you are subject to something called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And the DMCA, forbids website owners from reusing other content. And so people can make a DMCA claim, and you as the website owner are responsible for adjudicating those claims before they go to court. So if you are publish anything on a website that's not in another platform, right? So it's not on Instagram, for example. If you have your own website, you need to be aware of what the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, says, and you need to understand your responsibility associated with it. All of the forms of protection, intellectual property protection, are about controlling the use and the economic exploitation of particular stuff. And these are non-overlapping magisteria, is what they would be called in legal terms. That copyright is different from patents, it's different from trademarks, because they control different aspects of intellectual property. So copyright is about the expression of an idea. Trademarks, right, are about words and pictures that are used to identify a product, service, or company, just very, very broadly. So if you have a company name, what you may want to do is you may want to trademark your company name so other people can't use your name, right, with respect to a chocolate or confectioner or other kind of company within this domain of providing food, right, to people. So the trademark, the clue is in the name. So trade has to do in commerce, and the mark is a word or picture associated with your business, your company, a product or a service that is produced by you, right? And by securing a trademark with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, what you can do is you can prevent other people from using that term or that image, right, for a particular use. So you might, for example, let's take one, which we're going to go to in a little more detail, which is Tesla. So Tesla, Nikola Tesla, it's a fairly common term. And then we have a company called Tesla Inc. So I may or may not be able to trademark just. I could trademark just the word Tesla. For example, within automotive, I may be able to trademark Tesla. Within candy, I may be able. So I can use the same term in different domains that are non-overlapping, and so two or more different businesses can have the same trademark as long as they are not confusing to people. And that is the important thing here, is that an average person, if they look at the trademark, would not confuse your business, your product, or your service with someone else's business, product, or service. And that's what trademark covers. Again, if you want trademark protection, what you need to do is you need to register your trademark. And it should be noted that this is the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. We're looking at the USPTO report website here. And if you wanted to secure global protection, you would need to go to multiple patent and trademark offices and register your patent, trademark, or your copyright in different jurisdictions if you want to be able to retain. Copyright is a little different in the sense that there are global copyright pact where copyrights in one country are generally recognized by other countries. But when it comes to patent and trademarks, there are this registration needs to be done in individual domains. And the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, because everything is done by the patents and trademarks are done by one office, and they coordinate with the U.S. Copyright Office. I can search for all of those things in one place. If I'm going to go, for example, to the EU, there's no unified database of trademarks, patents, and copyrights that I've been able to find. So you need to do a lot more work. So patents are a little more complicated, and there are actually two parts to patents, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So a patent is designed to encourage inventors to be able to create new physical things that work, right? Or processes that work. And by doing so, what they have is they have the exclusive right for economic exploitation for a particular length of time. And one thing that is true about trademarks and copyrights and patents is that what you must do is you must publish the idea. And so for a patent, you must publish a full explanation of how your invention works. And if there is a physical something, like you're making a machine, so for example, a cocoa refiner, a chocolate refiner, or a tempering machine or anything like that, you actually have to publish a drawing which shows how your invention works with a step-by-step instruction of, here's the input port, and here's the processing chamber, and here's the output port, and how things get from one to the next, and what the purpose of each one of these things is. And what this does is creates a very, very complicated set of hurdles that you need to go through in order to be able to make sure that your patented idea, or the idea that you want to patent, has not already been implemented by someone else. And so there's a very, very complicated search process which needs to go through. And there's, in copyright and patents and trademarks, less so in copyrights, but patents and trademarks, there's an examination process. There's a person that goes and looks at this and says, thumbs up or thumbs down. This is not eligible for protection. And of course, companies can go and appeal those processes, but they tend to take quite a while. Patents especially can take many, many years to go through the process and can be incredibly expensive. Right? There's another aspect of patents which you need to be aware of. So a patent might cover, for example, let's say, Barry Callebaut's patent on producing ruby cacao beans. So there is no such thing as a ruby cacao bean. It's any bean which has a particular chemical profile. And the process that Barry Callebaut has patented is how do we retain the original color of the beans, right? And so we'll talk about that. I mean, I'll show you the patent in case you're interested. I did look it up and I did find it. But the patent is for the post-harvest processes. How do we take the beans and how do we maintain the color of the beans through fermentation and drying, right? And then there's a separate process, which is how do we take the beans and maintain that color in the factory through the manufacturing processes. And that practice is covered by trade secret. So they have not disclosed to anybody outside of Barry Callebaut how that process is done in their factories. And so often you'll have a patent and then you'll have a trade secret component. So for example, you might have a recipe that you think is an absolutely amazing recipe. You've come up with something which is really, really interesting, and you don't want to disclose it. So you would never publish the recipe because, among other things, recipes can't be copyrighted. Things which tend to be descriptive can't be copyrighted. So the phone book can't be copyrighted. The contents, a directory can't be copyrighted. You might be able to copyright the particular design, the look and feel of the directory, but not the contents of the directory. You can certainly copyright the look of a recipe book, the design of a cookbook, but you can't actually copyright the individual recipes because they're descriptive. Take this ingredient and this ingredient and this ingredient and process it A, B, C to achieve result D. You can't copyright those things. But what you could do is you say, we have a secret recipe, fried chicken coating recipe is one thing that comes to mind, and that you would keep it locked up in a safe somewhere and nobody would know it. Or the recipe for a particular carbonated beverage, you would never patent that because you're telling everybody how you do it, right? So you're going to protect that via trade secret. So those are the four major aspects of intellectual property which are going to be associated with your business in chocolate. Everybody who has a chocolate business who is online needs to be aware of copyright, the copyright rules, which affect their business, both actively and passively, right? If you have a particular particular logo, or you have a particular name which you think is unique and you want to protect it, you're going to go and look at trademark protection. If you have a particular invention that you want to be able to control, then you're either going to patent it or you're going to control it using trade secret. So how do I know all this stuff, right? And one of the reasons why I know this stuff is I've been involved in a number of startups in high technology, as well as in computer graphics, breaking down high technology, computer graphics, interactive multimedia, and information technology are the primary areas that I've been involved in. I was the chief information officer and a chief technical officer of an internet startup that had a patented user interface. And what I did is I implemented the user interface with a development team in software. And so I needed to be aware of the patent because the patent just explained what we were going to be doing and how we were going to do it. But we protected in trade secret the actual specific techniques we were using in software in order to be able to implement those ideas. I was also a member of the team of a company, a startup, a co-founder of a company called Enfish. And I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for the search results for Enfish. Enfish, this is a company for which I am a name inventor on 4 patents, one of which was litigated successfully against Microsoft. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have any economic interest in the patent, but if you go to this page, and I'll put the links to this page in today's post, you can find out what's interesting about the Enfish versus Microsoft patent litigation. And if you're at all interested in patents and software patents, one of the things that the court decided in our favor, Enfish's favor, over Microsoft, was that there are some concepts which are patent eligible, so subject matter eligibility of ideas in software patent claims, which was something that was not decided law, and it's at least precedent in this particular circuit, the federal circuit. I don't remember which one it was. It was in California. It's now precedent about that, and so in doing startups and getting involved in patents and trademarks and copyright and trying to decide what you want in a patent disclosure and what you're going to keep as trade secret, I do have some experience here. I'm a photographer. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, and the whole idea of copyrights, the droit moral, was something that was pretty much required learning in at RISD. It's a class you wanted to get to because if you're going to be producing artwork for sale, you need to know how to protect your rights in the work that you're producing and selling. So copyrights are, hugely important. And, you will notice if you go down to the bottom of the website, there is a copyright notice here, copyright 2024, The Chocolate Life. I do use copyrighted and public domain and other kinds of imagery, which I do recognize. This image was taken from a website called Unsplash, and you'll see that, actually, you know what? I didn't include the copyright notice here. That's bad of me. I'm going to go put it back in afterwards because I think it's really important to be able to talk about the source of these. I'm not certain why I didn't do that here. And I didn't leave it in the body of the episode. That's my bad. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to credit the source of this image because it didn't come from me. But in any event, I showed you the link to the USPTO.report website, and it's a very simple user interface. And it's one of the reasons why I like it, and it's a good first place to start. So I'm going to show you a search that I did using the USPTO report website for Cocoterra. Now, people may know Cocoterra, and Cocoterra is a company that has been looking to introduce a tabletop ball mill and integrated ball mill and tempering machine. And I noticed, I just searched for Cocoterra right in here, and I said, ooh, I knew that there was a patent, so I knew that I searched for it, I would find it, which is helpful. And what I find out is that they have 3 patent applications. So they have one for an interface and application for designing a chocolate making experience. And if you click on this link, right, it's going to ask me if I'm a robot. What you can do is you can find out what the interface is. And this is the software interface. So this is the menu items that you're going to go through, and maybe the physical buttons on the machine that you go through in order to be able to do this, in order to be able to operate the machine. It was applied for in 2020. And what we can do is we can find that it is filed, and we can find out who the patent has been assigned to, and we find that it looks like there is a patent number on here. So we can go and take a look at the status and figure out if, in fact, the patent has been granted. So that is one patent that Cocoterra has. I can look at the actual machine. And so you can see, if you're watching this, you can see that there are drawings for what it looks like is the circuit board, what it looks like is the machine itself, right? And it will describe the machine in a way that is generic, so that no one else, the idea of a patent application is that no one else is going to be able to design a machine like this one in the way that this is set up. And so a lot of the way patents get written seems like very wordy and very, very overly complicated. And one of the reasons why is that you're trying to thread a needle with a patent application. You have lots of what might be considered to be prior art. Let's go see. We're going to scroll way, way down. And what you're going to do is you're going to find, is there a prior art filing in here? There's not. And so we need to go, are there other ball mills? Are there other tempering machines that this patent refers to? Right. Again, I apologize for the scrolling, and I did not do my homework on this yesterday, and I apologize for that. But you can see that this is very, very detailed, right, in terms of what it is that they're trying to explain. And if you read the language, and I recommend that everybody read at least one patent application, and this might be the one you read, is to give you an idea of just about how complicated it is. Now, one of the things I also like about the USPTO report format is because it does patents, copyrights, and trademarks. In addition to the patent applications, what it does, it's going to show you the trademark. And so the trademark here is just what is called a word mark. So it's just the word Cocoterra spelled out in a generic font. The trademark doesn't apply to any specific representation of the term. So it doesn't talk about the fonts, it doesn't talk about the colors or anything like that. For example, if you were to look at the Google logo, what you do is you'd find that the trademark covers the use of particular colors, for specific aspects of the logo. And in here, the word Google is probably just trademark separately. Right? So it's important to understand the different aspects of these things. And what you can do is you can look and you can say, the serial number is, we can see that the application has been filed. It was published so that if anybody wanted to object to the use of this particular trademark, they could object to it. There's an explanation of the time that was first used in actual commerce, because one of the things about trademarks is they need to be actually used in order to be able to maintain them. And you get the idea that this status is live. And so you can find out who the lawyers were, and you can find out the code and the class for the trademark. And this is really important. As I said earlier, I could go search, for example, for Tesla. And what I'll do is I'll find that Tesla Inc., right, has a bunch of copyrights. I'm only going to look for the copyrights. And we can find that for some reason, the copyright excuse me, let's look at a different one. Let's go look at trademarks rather than copyrights. We can find that Tesla has been used not only by Tesla Inc., but by a bunch of other companies. There's a Tesla LLC. There's Tesla Motors, Tesla Partnership, Tesla Industries. The word Tesla has been used many, many times. And what we'll do is we go and take a look, right? So the blue ones are the ones that have been granted. The green ones are the ones that are in process, I believe, or the other way around, the status of them. And so what we can do is we can go and take a look, and we can see that here is a trademark. It looks like there are 3 identical registrations for it. What we may do is we may find the registrations are for different categories of products. So it's really, really important when you are going and thinking about the name for your company. What you want to do is you want to do a trademark search. You want to see if the name of your company is already being used in commerce. And if it is, what you need to do is you also need to say, is this name being used in the same category, right, that I want to use it in? And so let's go look at the application. So it's live and it's registered. And the mark drawing code is 4000. It's an illustration with words in block form. So there is a description for what it covers, right? And you can find out who owns it, right? So it's very, very useful to go and discover. You may also find that one of the statuses of a trademark is that it is abandoned. And so if you are looking at something like that, what you may do is you may look at a much more complicated user interface. So here is the USPTO website, and you can go there, and there's an advanced search engine component as part of the USPTO website. And one of the things you can do, it's taking a little while to load. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Right, here we go. It's a very, very complicated user interface. But what you can do is you can go and search. And among other things, you can find out if a trademark is currently active or it has been abandoned. So it's really, really important here to have multiple tools to do that. When we're looking at patent searches, we have not just the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office report website. We have the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website, right? We have Google Patents, which is provides a simple interface, which could get very, 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 very complex a little further on, and I'll show you the result of that. Right, and then you have the European Patent Office. As I said, the European Patent Office is different from the U.S. Patent Office, and it's difficult to do a single search encompassing a wide range of sources of patent, copyright, and trademark information. These generally are not for free. These are things that you would pay for and pay a lot. So if you're a patent attorney, you're going to have access to integrated databases, which are not generally applicable to individuals. So what I want to do is I want to talk about one particular story first. And this is something that I brought up last week, right? Last Friday in the September News and AMA. And the news story, and again, the links to this are in the post for today. The news story is about Tesla entering the candy market. And although the date on this is the 12th of August of 2024, it does reference, and you can read this, I'm not going to go through this, it does reference the fact that Elon Musk, has been talking about getting into the candy industry for some time, because somehow there's an overlap that being successful in going to space means you're going to be successful in marketing candy, or you're successful in marketing cars, electric cars and electric roofs and things like that, you're going to be successful in candy, or because you run a huge social media platform, you're going to be successful in the world of candy. I don't get it. But one of the trademarks that he's applied for is supercharged gummies, right? And this is an interesting one to me. So number one, he's applied for it. And so we can apply for it. It's a character mark. What we do is we find that the primary class is 30, which is in staple foods, which includes sugar-based candies. What we'll do is we'll find out that he's applied for a trademark. And what we can do is we can find that 2024-06, what we can do is we find that the application is filed, and the status, which is the important line here, is it's a new application awaiting assignment to an existing trademark examining attorney. So at the moment, this trademark is pending. right? And you can look at the actual application itself and a drawing which may or may not have accompanied it. I want to call attention to this particular uh, trademark application because I don't necessarily know that this is one that is going to be approved. Right? And so when you think about trademarks themselves can't be descripted. So cornflakes cannot be trademarked because that thing is too generic and it's descriptive. So I couldn't trademark mayonnaise. I can't trademark cornflakes. Those are two things that can't be. I can trademark frosted flakes because that describes something which is not necessarily a straightforward description of what it is that I'm making or I'm offering to sell, the product or service that I'm offering to sell. So in this particular case, gummies is a generic term. There are billions of gummies out there, right? And so you couldn't trademark just the word gummy. It's used by lots of people in lots of different companies in lots of different ways for lots of different products. And so you're never going to be able to trademark the word gummies at this point all by itself. But the question is supercharged gummies the same thing as frosted flakes, right? So is supercharged, right, form the same kind of relationship to gummies, or is supercharged a term which is going to be too generic in terms of description? I don't know the answer to that question. That's what a patent examiner or a trademark examiner is going to do. And so when you're thinking about trademarks, word marks, as these are called, you need to be very, very careful about the way they are constructed. And you want to do a trademark search and you want to make sure that no one else is using what you're using, but you also want to have some sort of expert opinion that says, nah, you're not likely to succeed on this application because it's too generic. I'm not entirely sure. Is supercharged gummies, sort of semantically equivalent, in terms of its structure to frosted flakes? Maybe, I don't know, but that's what the examining attorney will look like. We also have another one. So this is Mango Bolt. Now we don't know the type of candy here. So it could be a sugar candy. This one might be another gummy. It's hard to know. It doesn't say gummies, but what we do is we have a flavor, mango. Mango on its own couldn't be trademarked. Bolt on its own might be able to. So we have the Chevy Bolt. That's Volt. I'm sorry. So we might be able to trademark the word bolt in a particular context because it's not a generic term in a particular context. But the combination of these two things together is not necessarily as straightforward descriptive. I know what mango is. It's a flavoring. I don't know what a bolt is. You put the two of these together and it's something new. So this is something that sounds like it could probably survive a trademark examination. The next one is Cyberberry, and same sort of thing. We know what cyber refers to. We know what berry refers to. This is a single word. It's not two word. They're put together. And so Cyberberry is something that, almost certainly is something that could be successfully trademarked. And then we have this phrase, dog mode chill. Now, if this does refer to I believe, to a particular software state within a Tesla vehicle, dog mode, right? And then so dog mode chill, we couldn't probably trademark dog as something, but the combination of words is something which is not literally descriptive of what's going on. And so it's probably something that is trademarkable. And so I wanted to go through and talk to you or talk through these to give you an idea that, again, if you're in a chocolate business and you're interested in doing a trademark, these are some of the things that you're going to want to look for. And filing for trademarks is expensive enough that even if you're using one of these free online services, what you may want to do is you may want to engage a trademark attorney, an intellectual property attorney, to do an exhaustive search for you. And that exhaustive search will mean that, yes, we have a much higher degree of confidence that I'm going to be able to get through. All right, so I just lost the presentation. I'm sorry. I'm not entirely certain why I lost my screen. Okay, well, we're doing it live. You can tell that I'm doing it live here. So anyway, you want to be very careful to have this understanding before you go through the process, because it could take a long time and it could be rejected, and you want to be sure of what you're doing. And while I'm here, I want to give a quick shout out to Luis Felipe Trujillo, who's connected today on YouTube. Luis, hey, thank you very much for joining me today. And I don't exactly remember where in the world you're connecting from. So if you're still watching, go on and let me know where in the world you're connecting from. Would love to know where that is. And of course, if anybody has a question about anything that I've talked about today, please throw it into the comments and I will try to get it asked and answered. So what I said that I would do is I would show you the Barry Callebaut patent for Ruby. Now, it's not titled Ruby. So it's a challenge to go and search for this patent, right, under the name Ruby, right? But the actual patent is for a process for making red or purple cocoa material. Very, very similar. So this is the patent for the post-harvest processing steps that go through to preserving the color of the cocoa beans through the fermentation and drying process. What you're essentially doing is you're keeping the cocoa bean from oxidizing, and turning brown. That is the purpose. And so what we can do is we can find out who the inventors are. They're listed over here. We can find out what the applications are. So we find out that the applications have been done in Japan and the European Union and Canada and the United States. We're looking at the US patent application here. And we can see that there is a series of calendar events that says when the application was filed, 2009, right? The patent was granted, was first published. The application was granted in 2013. It was published in 2013, and it was assigned to Barry Callebaut in 2023, which is interesting because Ruby chocolate was introduced in 2017. Now, again, this patent only covers the post-harvest processing of stuff that happens in the country, in the producing country. It doesn't cover how do we take the beans and maintain the color in manufacturing? And that is covered by trade secret. So just important to know. And what we do is that Barry Callebaut has that patent through sort of the early part of December in 2029. So another 5 years or so. And there are 13 claims, which are a part of the patent. These are the things that the patent covers. And here's what this patent says. This is what we're doing that's unique and new. And we're doing it differently from the way everybody else is doing it. So this is that. And so the invention is a process for producing red or purple cocoa-derived material comprising a bunch of steps. And then they're going to describe the steps in order. So theoretically, it would be possible for you to go and completely duplicate this in your post-harvest processing center. You could go through all of the steps to produce these red or purple cocoa beans, right? What you don't know, and you would have to separately invent, right, was the process in your factory to be able to maintain that color, right? And again, that's protected by trade secret. But you know exactly how to go about and doing it. There's a step-by-step description. There may be pictures associated with it. There are always pictures associated with patents. So if you are interested in the Ruby process, here is something you can go and take a look at and see how it is done. It's quite extraordinary. Number one, what can be patented? I think that's the case. It's like, the question is, and there's also the case here, that this is not a phenomenon which Barry Callebaut was the first to recognize, that sometimes beans remained purple through fermentation was something that was known. I believe this work was done in Ecuador. It was something that was known, but it was Barry Callebaut who said, I wonder if we can commercialize this. And so because they're a big company and there's a lot of money associated with trying to bring any new product to market, they said, let's see if we can, it makes sense to try to patent it, which they did. Now there's another patent here, which you may just be fun. It's an abandoned patent for the use of cryogenic cocoa butter for tempering chocolate. So if you wanted to use cryogenic cocoa butter, now Barry Callebaut is introduced a product called Mi Creo, which is a powdered cocoa butter. I don't know if it's freeze-dried, spray-dried under low temperature, however it's done, but they use cocoa butter, which is crystallized. They mix this crystallized cocoa butter, Mi Creo, into chocolate, it is the seed, and you can very, very quickly bring chocolate into temper. But here is the patent, which has been abandoned, right? So they're no longer, it was published in 2006. So in the US, it would have come up for renewal in 2020. So there's a 14-year limit, more or less. And so it was abandoned. So Barry Callebaut is no longer defending this patent. And that's a really important thing to consider when you think about patents and trademarks, which is if you apply for a patent and trademark, and even a copyright, but if you apply for a patent and trademark, it is essentially something that you have to actively defend. So if somebody infringes on the trademark, if somebody infringes on the patent, if you don't actively pursue the infringer, you're going to lose your rights in the patent. So you need to be really, really careful to understand that these essentially become licenses to litigate, right? And if you want to have a patent, if you want to have a trademark, it is something that it may end up costing you a lot of money in the future because you're going to have to actively go and defend it. And this is one of the things, when we were at Enfish, there were many, many things we thought we might want to patent, right? Separately from the name, Enfish comes from the first two letters of the words enter, find, and share, which is what we thought people wanted to do with information. They wanted to enter into a system, they wanted to find it in the system, and they wanted to share it with people. And we developed a method, patented in the software, which enabled people to do this really, really easily. And the underlying description of the patent was then appropriated. So the technology used to implement the system was misappropriated. And that's what we had to sue over if we wanted to protect our rights in the patent. So it's really, really important to understand that. But what you can do is you can go find out what this is all about. So, there are some really, really interesting things. So, I could spend hours, and I did spend hours looking at some of these things. So here is what appears to be a patent for deriving a sweetener from cocoa pulp. This is a Nestle patent. So you might want to go and take a look at this because it's really, really interesting to know what it is that's being patented. So it is a chocolate product comprising pulp from a plant in the Theobroma genus, or an extract of pulp from a plant in the genus wherein the pulp or extract of the pulp comprises a sugar component of 20 to 85% by weight. It is really torturous legal language to go through. But what it appears to be is they're patenting cocoa pulp derived sugar, right? And how to go about doing it. Now, it may be that there is no patent on the idea of creating a sweetener from cocoa pulp, but what it is that's being described here is a specific method for doing that, right? Which may be more efficient. It doesn't have to be more efficient. It just has to be different from the ways other people are doing it. And what Nestle is trying to do is they're trying to protect their particular method. One of the things you'll find if you look up patents that Mars owns. So again, here is another Google patent search result. This is edible products with a high cocoa polyphenol content and improved flavor. So there are a lot of patents from Mars about extracting flavanols, catechins, epicatechins, and things like that from cocoa so that you can powder them and put them into pill form so you can get the health benefits of cocoa and chocolate without actually having to eat cocoa and chocolate. Or what you could do is you could add this extract, this powdered extract, into chocolate to be able to increase the flavanol content of a chocolate product. Right? And you'll find that Mars has lots of patents in this area. So if you're looking for the technology behind, for instance, Cocovia, which I believe is the trademark name of Mars patent, there's another one called Acticoa, which I don't recall if it's Belcolad's or if it's Barry Callebaut's, but Acticoa is another one. And so if you want to have two different competing products which are extracted cocoa polyphenols, you have to describe two different ways of doing it, right, in terms of patent protection. And this is the way Mars describes it. So again, you can go through and look at it. Here's the molecule that they're looking for. There may be, I'm not certain here, it's a very, very long patent. But what you'll do is a description of definitions, really, really cool. So this is something that Google did extracted. So there are lots of contexts which are talked in here. And there may be prior art. So here's similar documents and related prior art. So if you're interested in the history of doing this and who's been doing it, this is a quick way to go and do the primer, the original research on on where the patent comes from. It's very, very cool. Now, what I want to do is I want to go and talk about just some of the challenges that are associated with this. So here's a Google patent search for documents which contain the word chocolate and the word conch, spelled C-O-N-C-H-E. And there's a real hint here, which is if you see the pen icon to the left of the phrase down here, you can click on that, and now you have lots of different fields, so you can create a much more complex, multi-tiered search, right? So what you have is the ability to sort by the oldest document or the newest document or the most relevant documents. But what we'll do is we'll find, let's go find something that is relatively recent. So we have from 1910, we have, which is the first one that has a date associated with it, we have an improved process for manufacturing chocolate having a cocoa base, where they describe what a conch is, right? And so 1910, there's a lot of stuff that we would like to see that we don't actually have access to. The information may not have been digitized and made available to Google, but there is lots of related art on, or in terms of prior art and other documents, other patent documents which describe this. So if you were interested in creating a conch, right, for chocolate manufacturing, an improved conch for chocolate manufacturing, what you might want to do is you might want to do a patent search to find out if there are any abandoned patents, old patents, which are doing what it is that you want to do, right? And so we're sorting by the oldest, let's sort by newest. So we find that methods and apparatus for processing chocolate filed in June of 2024, right? And this is interesting. And it says, while current designs, let's get it right here, it says, so what is it? Disclosed herein is a dehydration system for use with a processor for food products. The dehydration system comprising a vessel, right? So anyway, what they're describing here, as far as I get it, is a way of using a vacuum dehydration system in order to be able to remove volatile aromatics from chocolate and other substances in order to be able to do things like reduce the amount of acidity and other unwanted aromas, chemicals in the chocolate. So what's interesting here is we already have thin film evaporators. We already have notions for vacuum conches, which are several years older. I haven't looked at this closely enough to know precisely how this is different from other ones. That requires a lot of not just subject matter expertise in terms of the physics of conch design, but it also requires a lot of legal understanding to be able to say, oh, this is how we're describing the process to make it different from any other process, right? But I'm not a really fan of vacuum conches when it comes to chocolate. They can work incredibly quickly, but they don't tend to be discriminate. So it's gonna, if you want to get rid of all of the acetic acid to evaporate it out, this vacuum conch is going to be really efficient about getting that out of the chocolate, but it's not going to discriminate between that and aroma chemicals that you want to remain in the chocolate. So, again, this would require, it's incredibly long. It's very, very dense technically, right? But if you were to go today, wanted to go through and start thinking about how do I go about designing a conch, this is something that you are going to want to take a look at, right? Because you want to know how has it been done in the past, and can I create a different way of going about doing it, which I can have some, number one, I want to make sure that the idea I've created is in fact unique to me. And number two is, am I infringing, right? Am I trespassing on anybody else's patent? Right? You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that what you're doing is different. And a patent examiner would agree with you, yes or no, and then they would publish it, and then a big company could say, no, I'm sorry, we think that you are infringing on our patent, and they're going to take you to court to keep you from commercializing the idea. So it's really, really careful, really, really important to understand what search tools are available to you and what your rights are once you have registered and what your responsibilities are in the process of, number one, of registering your idea, whether it's a copyright, a trademark, or a patent. Whether it's the best thing to do is to protect it via trade secret, just not let anybody know how you do it, right? Which turns out to be the least expensive and often the most effective way to protect many forms of intellectual property, where you're producing a finished product and people don't have any idea how you got there. So you wouldn't use patents to protect a photograph, but you would use patents to protect a means to capture the light and process the light in a particular way, and then reproduce that light in a printed form. So that would be patentable, not the images which are created by the device. So it's important to understand that difference as well. Now, often it is not very easy to figure out stuff. And I'm going to spend the rest of the time here, which is not very long. This has gone in very, very quickly. So what I wanted to do is I use an AI-assisted search engine called Perplexity. And I use this over Google search most of the time because Perplexity keeps a running history. And so I can modify a search term and it just adds that search term to the bottom of the list. So I had a conversation earlier this week with a company that's involved in cell culturing cocoa. And so cell culturing cocoa, so they take a little bit of cacao, what they call callus, and they're going to culture that in the lab. And the idea is you don't need to use a lot of cocoa beans, and you can do this in Europe and rather than in a producing country or the United States. So there's a whole lot of reduction of supply chain and other kinds of things. So I went and looked for cacao cell culturing patents. And I've got a list of what those patents are. I got the European Patent Organization. I can figure out what they are, right? And it gives me an idea of what key aspects of the technology. So if I was interested in how this is done, I've got a 5-6 bullet point overview of how it does. I've got some older patents. People have been looking at this since at least 1981, right? Which is, wow, this has been going on a lot longer. I was aware of work from 2020 on. So it's interesting. There's a 2024 patent. And I believe, and one of the great things about the way Perplexity uses is I've got these here, which are links to specific patents, and then they're also expressions here, so I can look at them. So unfortunately, I can't copy the link out of this browser, right, into a web page where you can go see my search results. I wish that was the case. I tried it. It doesn't work. This is limited to my browser, this kind of history. So I wish I could do it. But if you are looking for an interesting search engine, so I use three, by the way. I use three internet search engines. I use Google, I use DuckDuckGo, and I use Perplexity. And I use each for different purposes, right? Depending on what it is I'm looking for, I'm going to use all three. I may use one or the other. I may use all three in a particular search. So I looked at cacao cell culturing patents. I was looking for a particular patent, which was the technology was developed at the Weizmann Institute in Israel. And apparently there's no pending or granted patent, right, from the Weizmann Institute. But again, what I've got here is I've got a much better description of what the process, much more detailed. So I've got the process here. I understand. I can now explain to you, if after 5 minutes of reading, what the process of cell culturing cacao, right, involves. What are the steps and what are the processes? What are the key components of the technology? I can go take a look at actual patents if I want to do understanding of the differences between different ways of doing it. Again, Weizmann, I wanted to find out if there was information, Weizmann Institute, because Weizmann's just a name. There wasn't any more. But because I've changed the search request, the results that come back are a little bit different. And so I can use these different search results to go, oh, maybe I'm going to use different language to discuss this. It's fascinating stuff. And then one of the things that this AI does is it says, oh, here are some other questions you might want to ask related to this topic. And so I found that this is a great way to think about exploring topics, right? Is using an AI-assisted search engine in order to be able to provide me with points of entry. And that's an important thing about information management. It's one of the key concepts of a system based on the EnFish technology that we developed. Is often you don't know what you're looking for, and you don't know how to describe what you're looking for. And so being able to use an AI-assisted search engine, it can help you think about things in ways you might not have thought of, and it can help you provide points of entry, which may provide you with the information that you're looking for. In this particular case, I was looking for a specific patent related to the Weizmann Institute associated with a conversation that I had with somebody, and it turns out that there's no patent on it. But I learned a lot about what that means. I learned a lot about how cocoa cell culturing works, and at a very high level. And so very, very quickly, I would be able to explain what it means. And as a cocoa communicator, a communicator in cocoa and chocolate who's interested in often very technical subjects, this is really, really a valuable tool for me, right? And I use it all the time when I put together episodes of Pod Save Chocolate. It's my first search engine that I go to. And when I'm working with clients, I go here first. I will, again, also use DuckDuckGo, and I will use Google to do searches if I don't find what it is that I want here. But it's really, really, really helpful. And so here I'm talking about cacao cell culturing patents. And then I was thinking about cacao cell culturing, and then I was also thinking about other forms of producing cocoa alternatives, right? And so one of those is from a company called Win-Win Labs. And so they're using techniques associated with precision fermentation. And I went to look at Win-Win Labs patents, and it turns out that they don't have any patents, right? That what they're doing is they're using trade secrets. They're using that aspect of it. They're saying this is at a very, very high level. This is what we do. We use precision fermentation. We might use these ingredients, but we're not going to tell you precisely how our bioreactors work, what tailored microbes we're using to do the fermentation. That aspect of it is kept as trade secret. And it turns out that those aspects of it, particularly the microbes, the bioreactor times, temperatures, reagents, solvents, all that kinds of stuff, is going to be very, very key. It's more important than, I'm using barley as an input and I'm using carob as a flavoring. That's not important. But we have Johnny Drain, who is the founder of the company, or one of the co-founders, is talking about what intellectual property protection is all about for them, what they think their competitive advantage is, the ongoing development work that they're doing. So then I went, after looking at Win-Win Labs, I was looking for Planet A, formerly QOA, they were called COA, and now they're called Planet A Foods, and they have a product called Choviva. And so I was wondering about, somebody was talking to me, mentioned to me that, are they using a patented process? And it turns out they're not using a patent. What they're doing is they're using trade secret to protect exactly how they produce the product. And so I was, I just looked at, Planet A Foods patents, and I didn't get it. Then I looked at Choviva European patent application. I'm trying different points of entry, different search terms to see if I can find a patent, and there are none. There are no patents. It's how I found the European Patent Agency. And by the way, there is a link to the European Patent Agency website up here, or patent office, patent agency. I'll replace that. All right, I'm using a VPN, which is one of the reasons why it's asking me to verify who I am. So it's on a specimen. And by the way, right, if you want to search for something, you search at the top of the box, right up here. So if you want to see if there's a patent in Europe for Choviva, Choviva, you type it in here, and it turns out there are no patents. Right? Okay, right? And even if you go to advanced search, it won't help you find anything. So, but now I have the link, and in the future, if I need to use it, I can. Right? Planet A Foods, European patent number, and it turns out there isn't one. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up finding the Planet A Foods website, right? And I will put the link to this in today's episode. There is a page called Technology, building a platform for future food, and they say they use a proprietary technology. And so what they're saying is we are using a technology and we're protecting it via trade secrets. But that proprietary technology ferments plant-based ingredients, right? So we're using what's called precision fermentation. They are allowing us to naturally recreate the flavors in the foods we love. Naturally. That all depends on what you mean by natural. This is done in a bioreactor. Is that natural or not? It's not. We can decide whether it's natural or not, but they're using a bioreactor. This is a motorized mixer at the top. This is a pressure vessel, which is probably heated in some particular way. We're going to feed stuff in and pull stuff out. Again, it's whether it's not natural or not. This turns natural ingredients. So naturally recreate natural ingredients and food industry byproducts such as oats, right, into the base for a variety of flavors. So what they're doing is they're using precision fermentation, right, to be able to create flavor chemicals. And those flavor chemicals are ones that are traditionally found in chocolate. And it doesn't look like they're using carob, right, as a flavoring in here. They might. I don't know. It's when they're talking about what the base inputs they are, right? They don't talk about that. Now, interestingly enough, and this is something we also talked about, and you have to look at it fairly carefully, is that in last month, so the August news, we talked about a company that was using precision fermenting to generate lipids, fats, and they could control the triglyceride structure of the fat and could mimic the melting characteristics of cocoa butter. And one of the things that Planet A Foods has done with Chovia butter is they're able to precision ferment an analog to natural cocoa butter. So cocoa butter, which is expressed from chocolate liquor. So it's really, really important to be able to go and take a look and see what's going on here. This is what I do, again, as a technology educator. It's an important part of what it is that I do on a regular basis, so that when I put together these episodes, this is the work that I'm putting in to make sure that I can talk about this clearly and carefully, right? But for you, right, as somebody who's involved in the chocolate business in one form or another, what you will probably want to do is to take care to understand precisely your rights and obligations under the various forms of intellectual property protection regimes that there are. So when do you need to worry about copyrights, which is probably the most basic regime of intellectual property protection that everybody in the chocolate business who publishes a website, you want to know, right? You need to understand the rights that copyright gives you and the obligations you assume when you invoke and assert copyrights, the droit moral, as the French would say. Right? If you have the name of a business or the name of a product and you want to protect that name, the name of the business, the name of the product, then you're looking at trademark protection. Right. And so, again, you need to understand the rights that trademark protection gives you and the obligations you assume when you decide to follow the trademark protection route. And the same thing is true of patents. They are different regimes. They cover different aspects of controlling the exploitation, right? Which is the commercialization of your idea, the expression of your idea, the words and images that you'll use, right? The actual inventions that you might have. These are the three different domains that are covered. And as you think about what it is that you are doing as a business, again, you need to understand your rights and obligations under all three of those regimes. And that was the purpose of today, an exploration of intellectual property associated with cocoa and chocolate. And I hope you found it interesting. It was fun. It was interesting to me. It was challenging to find some of the things that I was looking for. I'm in the process of writing some articles, and so this work goes along with writing about some of the articles. It was really kicked off earlier this week by an interview I had with somebody who's getting into the cell culturing business, the cacao cell culturing business, to create cocoa analogs to make chocolate adjacent products. right? The courts will come in, the FDA will come in and say, well, this is legally chocolate or it's not legally chocolate. We don't know yet. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. Right? But that's what it is that I have for you today on Friday, the 13th of September. Hopefully it's not an unlucky day for you. You're out, you're having a solid and productive day. I do want to mention that this coming Sunday is the upcoming all-member monthly AMA. So if you are a member of the Chocolate Life, what you can do is you can sign in, right? And on this post, the September 2024 member newsletter, you'll see that there's this members bug here, right? If you are not a member, you won't be able to read the post and you won't be able to get the link to Sunday's episode. You can become a member. There's a join button here. Mine says account because I'm logged in. There's also where my avatar is in the lower right-hand corner. It'll be a plus sign. It'll say the word join. You can go and sign in and you can become a member for free. There's always a free level of membership. If you do have the resources, you can make a one-time donation. There's a link on the homepage for that. You can also set up a recurring subscription, monthly or annually, to support the work we do, because every episode of Pod Save Chocolate is supported by the members of the Chocolate Life, members like you. So go there. If you're watching today and you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the topic for today, please give it a thumbs up. If you are, in fact, a member of the Chocolate Life, afterwards, so later today, tomorrow, if you want to, next week, next month, sometimes I get comments that are years later, you can go down here, if you're logged in, to member discussion, and you can go and click in here and you can ask a question, or you can provide some other information or follow-up detail in the comments. So, but you can only do that if you are a member. If you want to see more episodes of Pod Save Chocolate, you can click on this link here. It'll take you to the tag page where these episodes are. So there's a lot to know, some of which you need to be a member to do, and much of which you do not need to member to do. But if you do want to comment, you do want to read content that is tagged as member, you do need to be a member. And some content is restricted to premium members. So just to let you know. So that's everything there is to know about that. This coming Sunday is going to be the monthly AMA. And if you're interested, we're going to be doing a Discover Chocolate in Ecuador trip in November. And you can go click on this link and you can learn more about the trip. And when you get done, if you're interested in doing it, you can just email me to member.support@thechocolatelife.com and ask me for more information. But there's a detailed itinerary. It's sponsored by Cocoa Supply. Here's the itinerary. And so all the information you need to know is here in the post. And with that, I want to say thanks, everybody. I hope I'll see many of you on Sunday for the monthly AMA. It starts at 10 o'clock Pacific time on Monday. It goes roughly for 90 minutes. Any member is invited to come in, ask questions, listen to whatever it is that we have to say as a group. If you have a question about the trip to Ecuador, you can certainly ask that question on Sunday. And with that, I want to remind everybody, as I do at the end of every episode, if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Until the next time.